We're live from the clubhouse in Glastonbury, Fox Sports Radio. Let's bring him in, Lieutenant Sal Palontonio. He is out in Vegas, and he has been with ESPN covering the NFL since 1995. And, Sal, how are you, sir?
Hey, Rob, I'm doing great, man. And it's always great to talk to you, and it's always great to talk to you on, the anniversary of one of our greatest nights in Super Bowl history together.
Hey, let me ask you, how many Super Bowls is this for you?
31, but nothing more memorable than a certain birthday party in Houston that we shared.
What? I want to know about this.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I want to need more details
No, you
on
don't.
this.
From my younger days when
sounds like Sal wants
I'd have
to
a friend
tell
of mine
us.
carry me back to my room.
Okay, I like that detail. You got any more, Sal?
Hey, listen, all you got to know is I was the heavy. I was the bouncer. I was the muscle at the birthday party. When you have to enlist me as the muscle and you got some former athletes on site, that's rough stuff right there.
Were you with us?
Always turn to the guy with the vowel on the end.
Hey, nothing was more fun than the stuff we got into in San Diego at one of the Super Bowls as well. So
now that's totally off the record.
Oh man, come on! You guys got to stop with this stuff. Too much inside.
Hey,
I need details.
I know you've interviewed Brock Purdy and you've been interviewing everybody, but give us some stuff from Brock Purdy's interview because he's an amazing kid, a very improbable guy to be at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and Rob, I'm not worried about Brock Purdy. I'm only worried about Kyle Shanahan's plan. I've seen it implode many times. They came into Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game, and they didn't protect him. They just didn't protect him, and he got blown up and knocked out in the first couple of plays. And then, of course, his plans, Kyle Shanahan's plan against the Patriots when he was the OC, lost that game after being up 28-3, and then losing to the Chiefs 4 years ago in the Super Bowl. I'm not worried about Brock Purdy. I've been around him now all week. I was there when he came into Philly and upended the Eagles and basically started the Eagles slide, and that was the first time I talked to him. He's an exceptionally grounded and mature individual, and he also has, some really terrific ball skills if given the right circumstance. And if you want to just go crazy XO on it, I mean, he's number 3 in the NFL this year against the blitz. I mean, we know Spagnuolo blitzes. So he's number 3 against the blitz, and he's very, very good in late safety rotation, which is the calling card of Steve Spagnuolo. He reads and reacts quickly. Now, they're going to try to heat him up in this game, and hopefully they'll protect him. But to me, Brock Purdy's going to be okay. My saying going into Super Bowl 58 is don't knock Brock. He'll be okay if he gets taken care of by that O-line and by Kyle Shanahan. Don't knock Brock.
How about these two franchises and how they're back to this position when San Francisco, let's just say, totally whiffed on a quarterback selection in the top of a draft with Trey Lance. Kansas City lost one of the best wide receivers that we saw this past season and can arguably be the best wide receiver in the last 5 years in Tyreek Hill. But they're back. How are these franchises so resilient in getting back to the Super Bowl here this year?
Well, you can start with the Niners. They got super lucky with Brock Purdy. I mean, come on, clearly. Everybody passed on him. They didn't take him in the 3rd or 4th round. They took him as the last pick of the draft. So they got lucky with Brock Purdy after whiffing on Trey Lance. They've had a core group of players, very mature, that have aged well in Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams. They added the piece of the puzzle that they needed, and that was a bell cow running back and Christian McCaffrey. So it's a phenomenal group of players. They have a lot of talent. That must be why they're, I'm trying to figure out why in the world they are still the favorites in this game, considering the history and the ability of Patrick Mahomes. But they are because of the talent level. But, for the Chiefs, I've known Andy Reid since he came into the National Football League as a head coach in 1999. In fact, I picked him up at the airport. How about the chutzpah on a young reporter at 1999? I went to the airport and I said, "Hey, Andy, just get in my car. Let me get some insight on what you're going to do with Philadelphia Eagles.
That's fantastic.
From the Philly airport to the Eagles facility, and I got the first crack at him before the press conference. How about that one?
Oh, my goodness.
That's fantastic. As far as running the ball, people seem to think McCaffrey and the Niners have to keep the ball and control it for the most time. Can they run on the Chiefs' defense?
Yes. Can the Chiefs run on the Niners' defense? Yes. No question. So let's look at the two different running styles. You know, you got McCaffrey. He's sort of like a combination of Roger Craig and Edwin Moses. He's got those legs and arms pumping like Roger Craig, but then he's like a hurdler, an Olympic hurdler. So he's got a rare combination of talent. He's got good open field speed. They run something that we have on the NFL matchup show tomorrow, and I know you love the show. And Greg Cosell does a great job breaking it down. The show will be on tomorrow morning and then Sunday morning on ESPN and ESPN2. And I think the highlight of the show is showing this zone toss to the outside they have. They call it an outside zone toss, where they pull both the guards and it's student body left. And McCaffrey just patiently waits things to open up when they mow down defenders. So they'll be able to do that against the Chiefs, for sure. And the Niners, as we know, it's been on NFL Live, you know, a couple times. I've seen even Tim Hasselbeck talk about it on Sports Center. The Niners are giving up 9 yards a carry outside the tackle box. 9 yards a carry. That's a lot.
That's awful.
So I think you're going to get force-fed Isaiah Pacheco and Christian McCaffrey in this football game because both these teams are going to want to come after the quarterback.
On the outside for Kansas City, it's been few and far between as far as playmakers go, but I do think Rashee Rice in the last 6 weeks has really improved week by week. Is this kid ready for the prime time of the Super Bowl?
I do think that. You know, on the back end, they're okay. The Niners' defense, to me, is the weak link of all of the units, other than the Niners' field goal kicker, who I don't have any real confidence in. The Niners' defense is the weakest link. Andy Reid going against Steve Wilkes. Well, that's not a fair fight. You know, what you saw from the Niners' defense against Detroit in the NFC Championship game, they got called out by Steve Wilkes for lack of effort and pursuit. Now, like I said, got a lot of gray hair to prove it, Dibs, but I've covered 31 of these things, and I've never, ever heard of a coordinator calling out his unit after they won the championship game like that publicly. So I'm in these press conference areas the last couple of days, and the defensive coaches are in a separate room, and Chase Young is sitting there by himself. Nobody's talking to him. These guys got a wake-up call, and they have to respond in this football game because in the Detroit game, they were exposed a little bit by Detroit, and the Chiefs are big. The other thing is Kelsey, right? So Kelsey is just super different. I mean, he's Gronk on wheels, I think. I love Kittle, but Kelsey is just different. Kyle Shanahan said that Kelsey's probably got the best hands in the National Football League. And he's got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle on his football team, and that's what Kyle Shanahan said about Travis Kelsey. So in the postseason, Rob, Kelsey has been targeted 27 times by Patrick Mahomes, and he's caught 23 footballs. 23 out of 27. So I know with that rocket arm of yours, we could go out into the parking lot right now outside your radio station, and I know you would have no problem, but I would not catch 23 out of 27 from you with no defense. I can guarantee you that. But he's doing it against NFL defenses, which is amazing.
Patrick Mahomes, we don't talk about him enough. You know, I think he's fantastic. I think he.
By the way, do you still have a rocket arm?
I do not. I have a 60-year-old destroyed arm.
Well, we get
but I can still punch.
Year.
I did the record on the punching bag.
Yeah,
in here.
806 on the punching bag here in the arcade punching room. Yes.
So I'm ready for whatever comes my way. Another 60-year-old Sal. But as far as Mahomes, I mean, he extends plays. He improvises as well as anybody I've ever seen. How do we ever count this guy out?
I don't. Definitely not. They went on the road and won in Buffalo, and then they went on the road and beat Baltimore and beat them decisively, embarrassed them. So I definitely don't count them out. The 16-play drive that they put up against Baltimore in the first half in the AFC Championship game, that was, Rob, it was all Mahomes. Go back and look at the tape.
I know.
Go back and look at it. It was all Patrick Mahomes. It was sick, crazy, demoralizing to the Baltimore Ravens defense, which came into the game number 1 in the NFL. So, Mahomes' ability to work off script, second reaction throws. I covered Vic, as you know, Mike Vick in Philadelphia. And, I remember Fran Tarkenton. I remember Fran Tarkenton, the ultimate scrambler off-script player. Mm-hmm. This guy is definitely the best second reaction off-script player, off-platform player that the NFL has ever seen. Ever. Brady was hut, get the ball out, guys were open in 2 seconds or less. So go back. Here's what has to happen, right? Here's what has to happen. Go back and look what Todd Bowles did. When Todd Bowles was the defensive coordinator under Bruce Arians and Brady won the Super Bowl in the COVID year in Tampa against the Chiefs. They played mush rush against Mahomes. If you remember the stat, Mahomes ran with the football more yards behind the line of scrimmage than any quarterback ever had in a postseason game. They just made him run around. They didn't protect him very well. They got to him. They played coverage on the back end. That's the blueprint. It's the only blueprint. And Todd Bowles laid it out. And if San Francisco does that, they'll have a shot. But if you just see Nick Bosa firing off the ball, just speed rushing and over pursuing, Mahomes will sidestep that all day long.
Mahomes with Andy Reid has been a spectacular combination, but so was Alex Smith. You mentioned Michael Vick. I could throw Kevin Cobb out there. I mean, Donovan McNabb. This guy seems like wherever he goes, he is not just successful, super successful. You talked about you were the first person that got to talk to him when he took the Philadelphia job. What is that ingredient that makes Andy Reid so great?
Well, he comes right out of the Mike Holmgren school. So he was the quarterback's coach under Mike Holmgren. He's got Mike Holmgren's playbook. He's got Mike Holmgren's plan. And that's a pretty good plan. It's the Mooch plan. It's the Andy Reid plan. Sherman did well with it for a long time. So he did well with it, but he couldn't get past Belichick, right? He never got that Super Bowl title in Philadelphia. They lost to Belichick, and he had a blind spot in certain areas of personnel that they couldn't fix. And then he goes to Kansas City, and he brings Brett Veach in to run the front office. They draft Patrick Mahomes, and they're off to the races. So they have a really good relationship, Reid and Mahomes. Mahomes has great respect for Andy Reid as a designer and play caller, and Reid has great respect for Holmes' energy and leadership that's different than he had with McNabb or those other players that you mentioned. They've got two field generals, one on the sideline and one on the field, like Belichick and Brady. That's a pretty decisive combination.
Talking to Sal Palontonio from ESPN, longtime NFL reporter. 31 Super Bowls. You're in Vegas. There's always been somebody that messes up and gets in trouble, but it seems like in Sin City, it'd be easy to get in trouble. Is the NFL different than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago? Are these guys just more like hanging out in their rooms, hanging out with their families, and just more business-like? I mean, have you seen any of the 49ers or Chiefs out this week?
I have not. And the 49ers and Chiefs, the NFL is different, and there are definitely more safeguards in place. And, you know, both the Chiefs and the Niners are staying in Henderson, which is a good 30 minutes out. There are no casinos on site. Their families are coming in tonight, so they'll get to be with their wives and children, spouses, you know, all those folks that are coming in. The families for the Niners are staying at the hotel. So, you know, everybody will be there for sure. So, yeah, it's definitely different. And, you know, not for nothing, I'm the guy who gets the call. I'm the lead reporter on the number one sports network at the Super Bowl. I got the call with Eugene Robinson, Warren Sapp, Barrett Robbins, and I haven't gotten one of those calls in a while. And knock on wood, knock, spit, pray. I hope I don't get one in the next couple of days. And I also learned something from hanging out with you. Shut it down on Saturday night.
That's right, man.
Shut her down. Only bad things can happen to reporters like that. You don't want to be the news. You want to cover it.
Great.
Well
point.
said.
Great point.
Well said.
Give us the turf report. Have you been down to the field? Have you touched this stuff?
No, I'm looking forward to that, though. They rolled that turf in. Hopefully they didn't overwater it like they did the last time.
That will be an issue. Do you get down? Like, is that one of the things that you're going to be looking at as soon as you get into the stadium? Is that turf?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, what was the thing with the turf that the Niners were practicing on? Isn't that different than what they're going to be playing on in Super Bowl?
Well, I'm not a turf expert. I know they're not crazy about it. They laid grass over a field turf. You know, when they initially went out there, they thought it was too soft. They're dealing with it. They got the fire alarm pulled in their team hotel 2 nights ago.
Those are good times.
And it lasted 18 minutes. They weren't happy about that.
Yep.
Yep. Nick Bosa said it was like, you know, the construction going outside their hotel in Philadelphia this year. Now, I don't know what he's talking about. That doesn't happen in Philadelphia.
No, not at all. Sal, blessed to have you on the show. Blessed to always know you. You're such a good friend. Thank you, Sal, and enjoy the rest of the Super Bowl week.
Rob, wouldn't miss it. Love talking to you. Call on me anytime, brother.
All right, maybe next year they'll allow us to come out and we could go get into some trouble again.
I don't know.
Be like old times.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I'm not 38. I'm 68. Okay.
Hey, I just hit 60, so we're as young as we feel,
I
right?
don't trust either of you.
Yeah.
No, I don't trust either.
Thank you, Sal.
Thank you, Sal.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Sal Palontonio, one of the greatest, man. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We've got some super sound for you next, and also we'll talk to Kyle, one of the owners here from Clubhouse. We are live from the Clubhouse on Main in Glastonbury on Fox Sports Radio. We'll be right back.